Welcome back. We are in the Music Lounge. We are global today. Very, very exciting. This is our first evening taping, but not for everyone who's here today. But this is a band I'm very fond of, very passionate about, kept in touch with over the years. And just very, very excited to be talking to these guys today.
Well, our guest is joining us from Australia, so we are taping at 7 p.m. and it's 8:30 in the morning
In
where
the future.
he is. In the future, yes, absolutely. So we're very grateful that he decided and took the time to join us. So today we have Keith Jeffery from the band Atlas Genius. He is the singer, songwriter, and producer. They made their mark in 2011, 2012 on 120 Minutes, but their current album is called End of the Tunnel, and it's out now to be listened to. Thank you for joining us, Keith. Welcome.
Great to be here.
Good to see you, man.
Thank you.
I just want to start off with very important day in my heritage today. Don't know if you follow the Champions League soccer, but Arsenal played Real Madrid in the quarterfinals. And we won 3-0, which is one of the best days of my team's career. So I'm buzzing. I'm wearing my zip up, my Arsenal zip up. It's a London team.
I did notice that. So
yeah,
congratulations.
It was big game.
I'm surprised we're still doing this. Maybe do you want to take a break? We could come back tomorrow.
I know, I'm still buzzing. I should be at the pub getting drunk at the moment, but we have them again next week. So there's two legs. We play them at home next week, and hopefully we'll get through to the semis. It's a big competition.
Well, good luck with good luck with that basketball tournament.
Yeah, thank you. I have to educate you after the show.
I know. Anyway, are you ready to get into this, Andrew?
Okay, sure.
All right.
Always ready.
So, all right. So, Keith, thank you again for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. So, sort of taking it back to the beginning, how did Atlas Genius form, and what was your initial aspirations for the band, as well as some of your musical influences?
Well, the band formed in this room, the studio I'm in right now, which wasn't always like this. It was actually a 3-car garage that was then converted into a studio. But it started in this room in South Australia. So it's Victor Harbour, South Australia, which is an hour south of Adelaide, which is sort of maybe the 5th largest city in the country, of 5th of maybe 6 cities. We're a small country. And
small.
So so the band started here, and it was my brothers and myself and our good friend Darren, who played keyboards, who's an English guy who'd just moved over from England a few years prior. And we were making music together. We'd make music in this room, and then we'd also make music in Darren's. He had a bedroom that was converted into a small studio as well. And so we'd just, like, a couple of days a week, we'd get together and write songs. And it was really... I think I probably, like all of the guys, like my brothers and Darren as well, we'd been doing music for probably 10 years or more. And I think that any aspirations of ever being a huge thing or any global success, they'd kind of gone out the window. It was really just like, let's just make music, because like...
So you had a full-time job as well?
Yeah, well, we had a full-time job. We all actually had a cover band that we would play. We did 3 or 4 gigs a week at the local bars and pubs in town, and so we'd make good money. Like you
were a full-time musician.
Yeah, a full-time musician playing covers.
Gotcha.
And so we'd always been writing our own music, but the money was in playing other people's, playing songs people knew to drunk people. So, and it was fun for a while. I mean, we did it for 10 years, 11 years, and it was a great way to learn your craft and to learn how to be on stage, and also kind of feel like what sort of songs really work with people. Like when you're playing on stage, not every song that you think is going to works, and so what is it about a certain song that, like, whenever you bring out this song, it might be a song from 40 years ago, it might be a new song, and we'd always try and find songs that would keep the dance floor moving. So I remember that being it was a good formative sort of period. But then after a while, it was a bit of a trap as well, because you're playing so much, playing so often, playing these covers. It was hard to kind of focus on your own music. So I think we're all a bit disillusioned. And I was actually stepping away from music at that point, still playing gigs for money. But I guess the dreams of it being something where playing our own music was the sole focus seemed like it had kind of gone away. And so I think because of that, then we were just making music just for the fun of it. We thought, there's no pressure on this. Let's just make some things that we like to listen to. Like, what would we want to listen to? And that's, I mean, I'm giving you a long answer here, but that's kind of the formative part of Atlas Genius.
So you think when you wrote Trojans, it was because you were in this relaxed environment, or you weren't under any pressure to write that album, write that hit song?
Totally.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that, and it's easier now to look back on it and see that. But at the time, I mean, it was a conscious thing. Like, we were writing music that we liked. But the funny thing was for us is that was the first song that I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. Like, I like this. I had no idea.
You could hear it on the radio, and
I didn't even dream of that. I think earlier, with the earlier songs when I was younger, I did, and those songs did nothing, and no one ever heard them. But so I think that, I just remember that song. I remember actually finishing the song here, and that night I went to bed and I had the old Apple AirPod, the cables, right? And so you'd pull it out when you went to sleep. But I remember listening to it like 10 times in a row when I went to bed. This is good. I want to hear it again. And but I had no idea. Like, it was just that. But we kind of had stumbled upon this formula through trial and error of different elements that kind of, okay, this is what Atlas Genius is. It's like, it's these elements, this kind of guitar, this kind of synth, this kind of drum sound.
And the bands that inspired you or were influenced by, were you trying to bring some of that into your music?
Yeah.
Like a little bit of In Excess, maybe, or just some.
I think In Excess later, in subsequent songs. But that like Trojans is a really interesting case study. I've thought about it because that's the one people ask about, right? Like, it's so many people like, what's the story behind that song? And I can really now, when I listen back, and I think even at the time, there were certain bands that we were listening to a lot. Like, it was Death Cab for Cutie, Data Rock from, I think, Sweden, Phoenix, The Strokes, Kings of Leon, like early Kings of Leon, early Coldplay. There was just like a mixture of all that kind of stuff that was floating around. I think that we pulled from that. And I can actually point to specific things in those songs, like that first record where, well, that sounds like the drum sound from Data Rock, or this is like the kind of, this is like a synth part from like a Phoenix song or whatever. So, yeah, it was I remember being like really in love with a bunch of bands, and they informed what that became.
Gotcha. I mean, I remember vividly hearing Trojans on Alt Nation.
Right.
For the first
what was
time.
It actually? So what did you think? Like, cause I can never hear it for the first time.
I think I caught almost the first time Jeff Regan, who's the program director at SiriusXM Alt Nation.
Yeah.
I think I caught that first time he actually played it.
Wow.
And it just sounded to me very catchy, very familiar. Like, I've heard this before. It was in my kind of personal music taste, and I was in a very similar job as Regan, where he was on the radio side, I was on the video side.
Yeah.
And I think before that, I got a friend who was a very high up exec in the radio space. And I was like, you have to introduce me to Jeff. Like, this Alt Nation is everything I'm listening to. I don't need any other station. Like I have to meet Jeff. So we went out to dinner, And then as soon as I heard this song, I just hit him up, and then I think he introduced us, and I guess the rest is history. You know, I was lucky that I was in a position at MTV to really support new artists that I was passionate about, and you obviously had airplay and whatnot. We managed to premiere the video on MTV2 120 Minutes, which was a relaunch of an iconic show. I guess it was an acoustic version of a video.
I think that was that the one that we shot here. Was it the one that we shot? I think
it was the acoustic one. Yeah.
So Michael shot it. We had, and I obviously Mike's my brother and the drummer. Michael shot it, and we did it actually back there. And I remember
it was
being
a studio version. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was the one we did here. Yeah.
And it may have been on your YouTube, or it may have been released in Australia, but we were saying it was the US.
I think it was, yeah, because we did it for you. From memory, I think we did it for you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So how do you think MTV2 played a role in the early support of Trojans and Atlas Genius? Obviously, you were getting the airplay on Alt Nation, and then that may have led to other things.
Well, yeah, I think between Alt Nation and MTV, I think it just basically it went from a song that no one knew about to then it was on people's radars and people were hearing the song, and I think that was what fueled this kind of. It was a very viral moment, and that was, I think, it started from Alt Nation and MTV playing, and then I think it had legitimacy, and then from that, we then had all these record labels come at us, and they're like, well, "Who are you guys? Like, what's the deal?" And we had, I remember somebody saying that they thought we were a record industry plant, like it was a fake, it was fake indie, like it wasn't really indie. Obviously, it's been done in a big studio, and there's a whole label behind this, but they're making it look like it's a little small project, but it legitimately was, 4 guys in a room in Australia doing it. So I think that, and then with MTV coming on board, and I think giving it some visual, because there was Regan came in with it, made people could hear it, and then all of a sudden they could see the guy singing the song, and I think that was probably a big. It was before. Obviously YouTube was still there, but Instagram was in its infancy, really, and I think it was like still a visual, like this is how at least one of the guys in the band performs.
Looks. Perry, you've talked about how MTV was very important for that visual pre-social.
Absolutely. We've talked about MTV being the primary source of the visuals for breaking artists. We've talked about how TRL actually created artists because of the visuals that the fans responded to. And once the opportunity to watch stuff on YouTube sort of superseded what was happening on MTV, the relevance of MTV decreased, as with regard to breaking artists, I believe. The video for Trojans sort of hit at the very sort of tail end of when MTV could really help break a new artist.
I know we didn't realize at the time. No one did, but it was interesting because I think it was the very apex of, well, maybe not the apex. I think it continued on, but like Sirius and Alt Nation's influence really was just like the perfect time for us. But we still got a huge benefit from the MTV, a visual aspect, and it couldn't ask. People have asked me like, how did the success come about, etc. And I say, well, it's not a formula that would work today because things changed. Things have changed with Alt Nation. Things have changed, obviously, with MTV. So we were lucky in that respect.
So, how did the song get to Alt Nation?
So, as I understand it, and there could be missing pieces, but this is the way it kind of all seemed to me like it went down. Was my brother Mike put the song on Triple J Unearthed. They had a website where you could just upload. Anyone could. There was no barrier to entry. You just like upload a song, create an account, upload a song. And this was the very day that we finished, like, we printed it from this computer, well, the old version, whatever computer was in here before, and we printed the song, bounced it out, and then uploaded it to like DistroKid or a few other things, like something that put it out onto Spotify and Apple Music, and then also Michael put it onto Triple J Unearthed, and there was just like this database of basically just like endless bands with new songs, and someone at Neon Gold, Andrew Huang, found it, just sort of scrolling through, and I think I didn't even think about this, but calling the band Atlas Genius, you're at the top of the list, right? Other than other than calling the band Aardvark, I mean, you're basically at the top, right?
There you go.
So I guess that's probably partly why he found it. Anyway, he saw the name, whatever, and thought it was interesting, or whatever. Clicked on it. He liked the song. And then he was working at Neon Gold, blogged about the song, and then I think Gremley at Alt Nation, he gave it to Jeff Regan. Jeff Regan gave it they must have liked the song and started spinning the song. I guess did a test spin or a couple. I forget how they did it back then. And then I think they got some feedback from listeners going, "What is this song? We want to hear this again." And so then from there, it sort of just slowly or quickly kind of.
With the rise in popularity of the song being as quick and rapid as it was, what was that feeling like when you found out that you had a hit single? And still, even today, the song gets played on radio. And then once you had that feeling, what was the feeling, or was there a pressure to follow that up with another song that you felt would be as equally well received and popular?
So, well, the first question is, how did it feel? Extremely exciting. I mean, it's easy to imagine how that would be exciting, because it's every musician. It's got,
Right.
It's the dream to create some art that people want to listen to, and you actually get to hopefully perform that. And we didn't know exactly how it was going to go, so it was exciting and kind of terrifying, because it's like, well, we don't want to. We've got these opportunities. We're getting record label, like Andrew Schiffman's emailing me. I've got like music lawyers, labels, people emailing.
The big wig at MTV.
The big wig at MTV. So you've got this opportunity, or these many opportunities potentially, but like there's almost like like you freeze and like, what do we do? Who do we like? What label do we go with? Or what manager do we choose? How do we? Because it could easily have just gone away, right? Like, because it could have just been a little bit of a blip. We got a few spins on Alt Nation, we didn't capitalize, and then we didn't sign a deal, and then you're back to, oh God, remember that moment when we had a bit of attention on the song? So that was scary. But there was we felt a lot of momentum and extremely energized. So I've never felt more alive than that period, when it's just, but it felt like a movie. It felt like, what's that Tom Hanks movie where
That Thing You Do?
That Thing You Do, like
Yeah.
I kind of felt like we're living a version of that, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was actually going to say, we've seen in the movies so often when it's about either a real artist or a fictional artist, and they hear their song on the radio for the first time, and how crazy everybody goes when you actually hear your song being played to a mass audience. And I will never have that feeling, but I can imagine how awesome and incredible and amazing that probably is.
Yeah.
We're on Spotify, Perry. Podcast.
Yeah. Well, no one wants to hear me sing. So
where were you the first time you heard your podcast? I remember Jeff Regan was. He's always been a really lovely guy. He's up there with Andrew Schiffman in quality of human beings.
I heard that. Yeah.
And
that's
so
what everyone's saying.
Well, because we couldn't listen to Alt Nation or Sirius in general out in Australia, because it's an American network, and he sent us some kind of, how do we do it? There was a way for us to listen to it out here. I don't know if we had a physical box or there was a way that so then we could actually listen to it. And I remember hearing it on Alt Nation. It wasn't the very first time, but it was like within the first couple of weeks. And then I remember hearing it for the very first time in America, sitting in a car in Los Angeles on Sunset Boulevard at sunset. And it was just, again, like, you hear those people talk about that there's that theory going around that we live in a simulation. And, generally I'm like, right. That's bullshit. But then I look back and I'm like, my God, that does really, it's like some of this feels so almost like too good to be true.
As you were saying before, you don't think you could replicate the process today of how it happened back then, because Trojans was pretty much supported for over a year. And to get that continuous airplay for that amount of time before your album came out was pretty big, right?
It charted for over a year. So it became recurrent where it's still charting, but they stopped counting it because it's been in for a year, and everyone's like, okay, we're not counting this, we're bored with this. But it was still charting after a year. So we didn't have any point of comparison. Like, we hadn't been through this, so we didn't know how exciting. We knew it was exciting. We didn't know how lucky that was, but also how unique that was. Because it's not common for that to happen.
I heard it, I was in the car a couple of days ago and boom, Trojans.
Yeah.
Was there another Australian band that had a similar story to yours that we can relate to what they're going through, or they can relate to what you're going through with having sort of a hit single like that, and then it jump-starting your career?
Not that we knew. I mean, I can look back and think about some bands that it might have felt similar. There's a band from the late 90s, early 2000s. They're still going, but my good friend now was the original drummer. They're a band called The Living End. I don't know if you remember The Living End. They're really big in Australia, and they had a couple of big songs that they got play in America. But he's the only guy I've ever really had a discussion with where there's some kind of, we can kind of talk about our stories and compare notes. But there are bands, but I'm not well acquainted with them.
And was the success mainly in the US, or did Australian radio start to?
Well, that's the interesting topic.
That was afterwards.
This is where it gets like in that part of the documentary where it's all like, the Australian market is interesting because we only have one kind of true alternative station, Triple J, and it's a publicly funded station. And so you've only got 24 hours in a day, and their former program director didn't like the song. So so we got, I think, 2 spins, like at midnight on like a Tuesday or something. And so we had this really weird scenario where we're from Australia, we're a completely independent band, there's no label push or anything. So there's no like hyping it up or whatever. It's purely just a viral, at this point, purely a viral growth with the song. And they spun it twice. This guy called Richard Kingsmill didn't like the song. He's kind of infamous in Australia because if he loves you, you're good forever. If he doesn't, then you're never getting in, like the gatekeeper. So I've never met the guy, but nothing against him, except he didn't resonate with the song, which meant that it didn't get played on that station. It did get played on some of the more like commercial, like soccer, what you call like soccer mum station. Like it's like throwback rock, and we're getting played with Lynyrd Skynyrd and AC/DC, and it's like, this is a weird fit. So of all the markets, I think we probably got the least play in Australia. Like, I mean, we had
we had
play in Europe, England. I mean, BBC One spun it, I think. We had BBC Four and a bunch of stations in Europe as well, and obviously America. South America was great for us as well. So yeah, it's a funny one.
going to go into a segment called Quickfire.
Oh shit!
Just going to throw some easy questions at you and just answer as quick as you can.
All right.
When I first started this, I had a 30-second timer, and then I managed to only get about two in, so I took out the timer.
Okay.
All right, here we go. First concert.
Billy Joel.
Nice. Favorite era of music?
60s/90s.
60s/90s. Taking out the 70s and 80s.
Oh, I love them too, but you got to pick. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. What was the first album you bought or you were, given, owned?
I was given Brothers in Arms by Dire Straits when I was 5.
Excellent. That's an amazing one.
At 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember walking through the supermarket with my dad, and I said, I really like this song. He was like, you've got good taste. And then they gave that
Money
to me
for
my
Nothing?
birthday.
Yeah.
Money for Nothing, yeah. Well, it was Money for Nothing, but I think it was more like Romeo and Juliet as well.
Mm-hmm.
Great record.
Yeah. What's the most unexpected thing that's ever happened to you on tour?
Well, you'd expect a bus to break down. That's
But it
happened.
didn't happen.
It did. That's happened a few times. Most unexpected. That's a tough one. I think the first day we graduated from a van to a tour bus in 2013, and I remember the first show was in San Diego, and I remember playing the show, and then a couple of the members of Jimmy Eat Well coming on the bus and having a beer, and I thought, this is great.
Nice.
Did you feel like you had made it at that point?
It definitely felt like a moment. Yeah, it was
That's awesome.
Yeah. What's the most memorable fan interaction that you've had?
There's a few. Well, there's a lot. There's a girl who I remember we were playing in Santa Barbara, and she had drawn something for us, for Mike and I, some kind of artwork, and she was so excited that she was crying, and she was super sweet, and she subsequently came to like 20 shows over the years, and I just remember thinking she was such a nice kid. She was so excited that I was like, that just blew me away.
Did you see her at every show? Was she like always in the front? You always kind of just eyeballed her every show?
Yeah, I think she came whenever we're in the area. I'm not sure where she lives, but she came to a lot of shows. And I think, did we see her on the last tour? I don't think she made it. But just really nice when you had those moments where people were so excited, and I think the music had done something.
Yeah.
Done something that had resonated with them.
Nice. What's the most memorable musician or celebrity interaction you've had?
I had dinner at Arnold Schwarzenegger's house once.
Oh.
Wow.
And there's been a lot. That's one of the wonderful things about the job is you do get to meet people that incredible at what they do, or just
was he the governor at that point, and you were living in LA, or
he was post governor. He wasn't the governor anymore, but he had just done the season of Celebrity Apprentice because Donald Trump had stepped aside to run for president, and so Arnold stepped in. So it was just at the end of that.
Did you watch The White Lotus? Was his son around?
I've seen everything but the last episode of the new season, so no
I won't
spoilers.
say anything.
But I will say, he impressed. Apparently he hasn't done much acting. He was great.
He did a good job. Cool.
The whole show.
Was he at dinner with you also?
No, he wasn't there.
No. Okay.
No.
If you could tour with any artist, dead or alive, who would it be?
Well, it's got to be one. It's got to be either the Beatles, or David Bowie or Led Zeppelin. But the thing is, you don't want to tour with them because you're like, no one's going to be there for you, right? Because there's the thing.
Right.
But they could open for you. But then everyone might leave.
No, everyone would leave. The thing is, like, there are certain bands you don't want to open for. Like, I don't know whether I'd really want to open for Oasis, because if you're going to an Oasis show, you don't, no matter who else is playing, like, you're going there for Oasis. Like, it's the reunion, or say if it was the Beatles or Led Zeppelin. I feel like it's a tough gig.
I have my Oasis tickets, by the way.
Good.
I'm seeing them twice.
I've seen them before, and I do want to. I would love to. I haven't got tickets for any of the shows yet. I
Yeah.
think I may have
Are
missed
they
the boat.
are they going to Australia?
Yeah, they're coming here.
Who's your favorite artist right now?
Ooh, favorite artist right now. It's either Chris Stapleton or Joe.
DJO, right?
DJO. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
That
I
record's
like Joe.
great.
Yeah.
Is that's not the kid from Stranger Things, is it?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
Also in the latest season
Interesting.
of Fargo.
Right.
Very good.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have to give that a listen then if you're recommending it. I would never have thought to listen to it.
Yeah.
It's a very well produced record. The record it's immaculate.
Cool. All right. Thank you for the recommendation.
Last question. What's your favorite cover song to play?
Well, back in the day, and we used to get told not to by the bouncers at the pubs we used to play at because the crowd would go too nuts. We'd get there'd be mosh pits and there'd be fights between drunk guys. But it was either Smells Like Teen Spirit or Killing in the Name by Rage Against the Machine.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I haven't heard cover songs of those too much, you know?
Well, they're not easy to do. I mean, I don't know if I could sing it anymore, but when I was 20, I could do that. I could scream and not blow out my voice, and they were fun to do.
I'm sure.
In the last 10, 12 years since Trojans came out and the first album came out, the music industry has changed quite a bit. And also both how people consume music as well as how music is promoted. How have you as a band adapted to those changes, especially in releasing new music and promoting your music? And what keeps you creatively inspired?
Well, I can say that it's a good time to ask what keeps me inspired because I felt like there was a long period where I didn't feel inspired. And I will say, I mean, if we're being really, really honest here, I did so many interviews back in the day where you felt like you had to put on a facade or put on yeah, everything's great or whatever. But the music industry was really, really hard. And I had no idea how hard it is to deal with. So, because when we came in, we'd already been playing music for a long time, but that's not music industry. That's just playing gigs. You're not really dealing with anything.
It's not
you're just dealing
the business side.
It's not the business. All you're dealing with is you think you're in the music industry, but you're just dealing with a pub manager who books you, right? And that's it. Whereas the music industry, like the proper industry, was nothing like that. So we had no grounding, even though we've been playing music for over a decade. We had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. And obviously, people, it'd be great to go back and tell younger you, here's what you should do because you're going to feel like you want to go here, but maybe you should do this. We didn't have any of that, and we didn't have any good mentors. We had our parents are great, but they didn't know either. Might as well had my grandmother advising us, right? I would not claim to be someone who has got the answers with how to navigate the industry now, because it is a really wild west again for creators, because I think like there was the song Video killed the radio star, and I feel like TikTok killed the video star, the way that it's geared, and I don't want to sound like an old fuck, but I feel like the idea that music now is like what will become a TikTok trending song. Therefore, you've got like certain things. It'll be like, it's going to be quick. It's going to be often sped up. You're not got Bohemian Rhapsody wouldn't be a TikTok song, I wouldn't imagine, if it came out, right? Like it's one, maybe the greatest song of all time. And but it wouldn't work because it does, you can't consume that song in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, and so I think that so it's pushing a certain art form really up, there isn't a real art to it.
And what dance would you do to Bohemian Rhapsody?
Fuck, a pretty weird one, wouldn't you? Yeah. And so there's that thing of it's the medium is, that's dictating a lot of what's happening with how people are like. I mean, I have this studio here and I work with artists all the time. I talk to mates in other bands as well. And it's the conversation so often is, well, this is what's working on TikTok right now, or this is, or we're going to think about this for TikTok. And I understand that used to be like that for radio too, because a 7-minute Odyssey wouldn't work as on radio, whereas the 3-minute song would, for example. Like the Beatles were doing 2.5-minute songs. And I understand, so there is that consideration, but it's a strange one because everyone's kind of like, well, the success is going here. This is where the money and the attention is. Therefore, let's focus on that. And a lot of people, I think, are doing that. And it's just, you're losing a lot of art, I think, or it's really hard to get attention. Like the last record we put out is the best record we've made. I know everyone says it, but it is the best record we've made. Artistically, I think the songs are really solid. I'm more happy with what the way they sound and what they convey than the other two records. I still like the other two records, but I think we got better. But everything's changed, and it's so hard. Even as someone who's had hit songs, it's hard to get people to listen to those songs now.
Yeah. Well, I have been listening for the last 2 days pretty much nonstop to the album. So thank you for producing it.
Thanks.
Trying to get ready for the interview. But, even the record labels, though, are basically saying to artists that are already signed, saying, you need to produce something for TikTok. I mean, that's how we're going to get traction. It's going to be, that is where the audience is going to find this new music. And
you have to fit in a bubble. It's about how can your song album generate money? It needs to attract XYZ. So it's almost like the art, as you said, is secondary to the focus of how it's going to be promoted in its short form.
That's right. And it's like this idea that
you should make a 20-second song.
TikTok would reward you for that. I mean, and I'm not slagging off TikTok. I mean, it's technology. You've got to move with the times. Just like there was radio was the first one of the first way that music got out, but then MTV came out, and that obviously made there's a song about it. So, but it's a hard one because there's more energy. There's honestly more energy being put into generating TikTok videos than there is to writing the song, and that's pretty shit.
Yeah.
Have you found a way through that to still keep yourself creative? And
I'm at the point where I don't give a shit. I mean, I'm at that. When it comes to creating, I realize now that what I love is making music, right? The reason I've got some plaques on the wall is because we did stuff that we weren't thinking about what anyone was going to. We genuinely weren't, because we didn't even know that there was an audience. So we were just making stuff because the 4 guys in the room were like, oh yeah, I like that. Fuck yeah, that's great. And just throwing ideas at each other and it just gets better and better. And that was the way I really enjoyed making music. And all the other ways were just torture. Like worrying about your A&R guy telling you I had an A&R guy telling me there were words I couldn't use because they were overused. I'm like, it's like giving a painter well, you can't use that color because the last bunch of painters too much blue in paintings right now. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? And I remember knowing that was a shit thing for someone to say, sitting in this room with a guy pointing at words you can't use that word. I'm like, I've been through those and realized they don't work. It's painful. And so you go back to what you know.
Well, the funny thing is, those words are used because an audience responds to them, probably.
That's right. I mean, why do most movies have they have the hero arc, there's
absolutely.
It's because people they get drawn into that. And that's why those types of movies people love.
Never stop being true to yourself and your craft. So.
Yeah. And I think that and you hear a lot of musicians who have done it for a while saying similar things to what I'm saying. It's like and I would even hear people say this before the penny drops, but the industry is fucked. It is such a destructive, and the other thing that's really unfortunate. Other than like people like Andrew, like we still talk every not every day, but every 6 months. How you doing or whatever. And there are people like that I still love from the industry. But it really does. There is a large percentage of the industry they are your best friend when you have a number one song. Holy shit! It's like it gets icky. You're like, oh, like hey, go. But then if the next record doesn't do what the last record did, it's like you don't even know you.
But I would think that touring helps you really kind of connect with the audience and get your music out there.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
absolutely.
You're right. That's the other piece of being a musician that is fantastic. Like being in the studio and when you're writing and it's feeling good, that's an amazing high. And playing music that's an even bigger high. Like if you're playing and the crowd's into it and there's some connection between you because of the sounds that are coming out. That is an amazing drug.
That's a good segue, Perry. We could talk and talk and talk. This has really been amazing and it's gone really quick. We like to end our podcast with a question we ask everyone, which is, and you are actually the first musician we've had on our podcast, so maybe the question steers a little different, is what's your favorite, doesn't have to be New York City, but if we want to just focus, what's your favorite venue to perform at or that you've seen a band?
Oh, we've been lucky. We've played a lot of times in New York. Central Park with the Kooks on the summer stage.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was great. I didn't play my best set because it was the first show of the new record at that time. Like I felt like I was still kind of had training wheels on. But it was that was an amazing venue. At Central Park. I mean, it doesn't get much better.
It's a good atmosphere. Yeah. It's not too overcrowded, but there's a lot of
I think it's about 10,000.
Right.
5 to 10,000. No, something in that vicinity.
But it seems like wherever you are, you aren't in the nosebleeds, No,
and I got to play. I got to sing a Kook song with the Kooks.
Oh,
it was a full circle moment because it was a song that I used to cover, playing in a cover band, and then we were playing with the Kooks, and I actually got up and sung that with them.
Very cool. Central Park. That's the first we've had.
First one we've had. Yeah.
Normally it's like, it's Roseland, Irving Plaza, Madison Square Garden.
Well, I wouldn't mind doing Madison Square Garden, but we have not had the privilege, so.
It's on your bucket list. It's there. It's,
Another Aussie artist was there this week, Kylie Minogue.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, good friend of mine.
You mean you weren't opening for her?
No, she asked us, but she's just different vibes, Yeah.
All right.
I did see Billy Joel there last year. Actually, the last thing to say is that I saw Billy Joel. I think it was show 148 of his residency, and I hadn't been there before. And like that, what a great! Actually, no, I had been there once before to see the Knicks, but I hadn't been there to see a show, and it was so good.
I was there last week for a comedy show, actually.
Who was that?
It was Tom Segura.
Tom Segura's doing he's great.
He did MSG, and what I had no idea, normally you have a couple comedians open up for you, right? Redman from the Wu-Tang opened up first for like 25, 30 minutes, and then he had two comedians. I was like, this is amazing. Like, that was
so people were hyped up by the time he came
Big
on.
time hyped up, yeah.
So
and he's funny. He's in some like comedy movies as well, but
I've been a big
very
fan
unexpected.
of him. I've been listening to him I saw him in Sydney about 4 years ago. He was great.
Tom or Redman?
Tom Segura.
Oh, very cool.
And I met him actually briefly. But what's comedy like in that kind of sized venue? Because I haven't seen a big comedy show. I've been to like Comedy Store.
It was incredible.
Like no, I asked him that question too. Yeah,
I've actually seen a few there. I'm actually going to see in I think 2 weeks Ricky Gervais.
Oh, that would be great.
for the third time. I think he's playing at Radio City, a little
Okay.
bit smaller.
Yeah. I just imagine with the diction, like being able to understand someone, because comedy is all about being able to understand what they're saying, and in a big venue, it might be difficult. But
sound was great.
yeah,
I don't remember screens like you have for the bands, so I really couldn't see his facial expressions because I was a little up, but it didn't matter. You were totally in the vibe.
Wow, he's huge now, isn't he? Madison Square Garden.
That's the next
Good for
level.
him.
Yeah. Well, this has been really good catching up, man. Thank you for doing this.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. We greatly appreciate it.
Of course.
Thanks for getting up early.
Was awesome.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
And good luck with everything in the near future.
Yeah, we'll have to catch up next time
and
I'm
we'll be in
town.
touch. Absolutely.
Are there any plans to come back to the US for anything?
We are in the planning stages. Yeah, we'd like to go back. Yeah.
Great.
All right. We'll see you soon.
All right. See you soon.
All right.
Cheers,
Thank you, Keith.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.